Hola a todos y bienvenidos a un episodio nuevo de Wrist Cheese Radio. How is everybody doing tonight? I promised everybody I would do the intro in Spanish again. I kind of laid that one out there as a joke in the story, but for the sake of having a good time, I thought I'd bring it in that way. I'm your host, Brodinky. With me, as always, or not recently, but usually, is my good friend, the Schmidt man. Schmidt, how's your hiatus been, bud?
It's been good, man. It's good to be back, finally recording an episode after a 2 week hiatus. It felt like forever.
Yeah.
But doing a lot of traveling, did some vacation time with the fam. So it's good to be back, good to be recording an episode, and we have a lot to catch up on. So thank you to our guests, Matt McD, and our other guests as well for holding it down in my absence. I sincerely do appreciate it. But yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you back. The takes aren't quite as spicy without you. And in your home for the horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions here on Rich
Yes.
Cheese Radio. Um, yeah, no, it was a good 2 weeks. I had a lot of fun. Thanks again to those who hopped on with us and those who kind of stuck it out on those episodes with us. I know kind of unconventional for WCR, but you kind of got to make do with what you got, right? I don't know how I guess it's a lot easier when podcasting is your job to show up every day, but when it's not and you have an actual job or a family or whatever it might be, it's a little less easy to be around every time. I know I have somehow by some God's grace, but understandably, especially somebody who travels like you do, understandably, it it makes sense that maybe, just maybe, you wouldn't hit every single episode.
It's certainly a struggle, and I don't really like missing. I mean, I think in the grand scheme of what we've recorded over the years, I should say the last year or two at this point, um, is only a few episodes. But yeah, such is life, and we got to do what we got to do. So unfortunately, couldn't be there for the last couple, but I'm here now. So
On
we got a
episode
lot of
80,
catch.
my friend,
I
80.
know 80, 80, 80. It's crazy to think about it, but we've been doing it for 80 episodes. It's amazing.
Even crazier to think about. By the time people are hearing this, 100,000 people will have downloaded Rich Cheese Radio. That
I can't
is crazy to think about.
I can't even imagine. I mean, again, it's so amazing to me. We had talked about this so long ago as being a joke that, we would eventually be canceled right off the bat, and to be here basically on our 80th episode with 100,000 downloads pending, very, very close. Um, it's amazing.
Yeah,
So
where
thank
we
you.
stand here on Cinco de Mayo, if you didn't get it by the intro, where we stand, we're
Yes.
somewhere around 99,800 downloads, and I've been sort of
So
joking.
close.
I've been sort of joking around with Dana all week if she'll be the 100,000th episode download or not, because it's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
if she really wants it, she'll just leave it on loop and let it go.
It's- hey, it's fine with me. Thank you again, Dana, for stepping in.
Yeah, she was great. Honestly, a lot of people give a lot of really nice feedback about it, and
She was awesome. I'm just gonna say this. Listening to back to episodes, which is always weird for me when I miss to like listen to you guys have a conversation without me. It's so interesting, but I really, really enjoyed the last two episodes, and Dana especially. I think it was a very cool conversation. She seems very down to earth. So I would love to talk and chat with her at some point too.
yeah, hopefully, if you do make it up here for wind up weekend, I can introduce the two of you. So
That would be great.
yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, let's get into some new stuff. Yeah, not a ton of news lately, I gotta say. I think the biggest story, and it's kind of a non-story for me, is that James Harden bought Joel Embiid "You're the MVP" Rolex.
Yeah, yeah, the day date, right?
Dude, like, I don't know why this is a surprise to people. Like Steph Curry did it. Like these guys, that's
Yeah.
what they do. Like, you accomplish something. at this point, these guys with the contracts they're making now, some of them upwards of 40, $50 million a year.
Hmm.
That Rolex is a joke to them.
And they can get it because they have connections and they have people in the industry that can source them those pieces.
Well, yeah, and if you saw like Uncut Gems, right? Like they all have connects somewhere that they can.
Yeah, yeah. That was such a crazy move with
That's such a solid
With
movie.
With Kevin Garnett, and he
I
makes his
really,
appearance.
I really was on the fence about whether that was going to be a really good movie or not because Sandler, I love him, but he's put out some kind of odd stuff in recent memory.
Hmm. Hmm.
I know he's trying to be maybe some wholesome guy, putting out some wholesome family stuff, which is fine. But like, it hasn't hit like I guess when you come in with the likes of Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, it's gonna be
Yeah.
tough to keep that going. I mean, he had Big Daddy was good, Little Nicky's fun, but just to keep that going for a long time, I guess it's a tough task, right? So hearing he was coming out with a pretty serious movie, I was like, all right, I'll reserve my judgment. But overall, a really tense, dramatic, and fun movie. I thought. I mean, especially if you are into whether it's betting, gambling, whatever, like that movie is like a rush because you probably haven't been there with the stakes he's playing, but still, like
Hmm.
you've
Hmm.
been on the edge of your seat before.
Yeah.
you know, it's just a super tense ride the whole way through.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you hear the rumor that Will Ferrell's doing a golf movie and Sandler's going to be making a cameo appearance as Happy Gilmore?
That's probably gonna be hysterical. I will definitely go see that.
I would be totally. So it's kind of a rumor. It's not confirmed yet, but that's kind of the word on the street, and I would be ready for that. 100%.
Yeah, and actually, his other more recent movie, where he was serious too, that movie Hustle, that was another solid movie where
Yeah.
he's the agent or
Yes,
agent
that was a great
coach.
movie,
I can't remember what
actually.
he is,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, he was really good in that. So yeah, I don't know how we got on Adam Sandler, but
Well, look, I like Adam Sandler a lot. I think he's
I
a
do
good guy.
too. I do too. Um,
He's got the boy's got range. Okay,
yeah, no,
he's
he's
got
proven that.
range.
Hey, if you remember, he was a musical act at one point. His original comedy, he had a guitar and he used to play like the Hanukkah song.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He had
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
He used to release CDs of like funny skits and songs, and like me and my friends used to buy them because they had inappropriate words in them, and we'd be in the seventh grade on the bus laughing at it because he says dirty things, but
Hmm.
he started off as like a very musically inclined comic. I mean, he was on SNL and everything, but just interesting to see sort of how his career's unfolded.
Yeah,
But yeah,
amazing.
no, I got here through Joel Embiid. Anyway, I don't really care that these guys gift each other Rolexes or whatever. It's fine, good for them. But like, it's almost non-news. Who like, if they gifted each other something really strangely watch guy, I would be more impressed and I would care more. But it
You mean like a Chapek or like a
something, yeah, something
Moser or
way off
something?
the reservation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh look, we bought the bargain bin day date. Wow.
And I had it engraved. How nice.
Yeah.
But
Would
yeah,
it say
other than
like
that,
MVP 23 or something like that?
yeah, yeah. Other than that, I mean, not a ton of news coming out lately. We got some decent new drops on the docket. Some of them pretty interesting. I guess let's start with Nevada here. For some reason, I feel like we talk about them every week. I mean, they just keep dropping more and more watches, and they're all. We were talking about this before. They're all pretty dope.
They keep dropping heat is what they keep dropping. That's just the reality.
So they have this Antarctic Diver, which is a reissue of an old watch. They kind of teased it. It's coming out later this month. It's a really neat looking watch. It's got a lot going on, sort of almost in the vein of if you think about an old 50 Fathoms or an old Seamaster 300 or some of the
Hmm.
newer Certina DS with
Yeah, the
the
DS action
yeah,
divers.
yep, like that's what these remind me of. But it's just because it has a lot going on. I like that they have sort of almost like a dark mustard loom. It looks like on this.
Yeah.
It's not really. it doesn't look too much like Fotina. It just looks like dark loom, but it looks really good. Red tip secondhand. It has a Cyclops. I like the Cyclops. Doesn't bother me at all. I know some people hate it. Sort of comes on their sort of signature beads of rice that they've thrown on everything at this point. But I like it. I like it a lot. I think like everything they put out, it's just very well thought out, well put together. It has their design language. It's oftentimes a callback, but not a copy. And I just like what they're putting out, man.
Yeah. It's hard to fault this, man. It's everything that they put out is a banger. It's an absolute win. It's so vintage. It feels, very unique and special, but it's so quintessentially Nevada. They have their own style, and I'm looking at their back catalog and what they tease and showcase to us. It's amazing that they even went anywhere because everything that they produce is so unique to them. I mean, you talk about some of their spider dials with the crazy funky, hour markers and indexes.
And they teased a new one of those too.
They did with a salmon dial.
Yep.
You think about, the F77, which just recently came out. I mean, all these watches are so unique to their own design language that it's just like, man, how did they ever become irrelevant at one point? You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. It's hard to fathom that they got basically phased out more or less
Yeah,
because all of these watches are heat. Like every single one that comes out, I'm like, I kind of want this. I kind of want
I
this. I
know.
kind of want,
And
and
this
it sucks
diver's no
because
this diver's no
there's
different.
yeah, there's a lot of variety and you can't own them all. So I'm just like shit. Like I don't know which one to get.
I mean, I'm still a glutton for their Chronomaster Sea Diver, whatever it is. They're like OG one that they
Yeah,
launched.
Chronomaster Aviator Sea Diver. I only remember that
That's what
because
I was.
it's
I was missing
CASD.
Aviator.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
such a good watch, man. And I love how even though they release all these crazy cool models, they still remain very attractive in the price point and very, very approachable.
Yeah, this one comes in at 950.
Totally doable.
Not too shabby.
Totally doable.
So definitely
So
something to keep your eye out for coming out. I believe it was the 25th of
yeah,
May.
25th of
So
May, and then that Salmon Dial will be coming out, shortly thereafter.
damn. All right, let's go to a brand we haven't spoken a ton about on here, but Mito has an Ocean Star tribute rendition. I don't know what shade of blue this is, but it's got a gradient blue dial, and it comes on either a Milanese or a Tropic, and the shade of blue is just really, really nice. I don't really know how to. I don't know what you would even call this. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like the original Tudor sub blue
Yeah,
a little
yeah, that's
bit
it. Yeah, yeah,
around the
yeah, for sure,
bezel.
for sure, for sure.
But either
It's
way, I mean, these are
it's kind of like a grayish, like aquamarine color,
yes, okay, okay, I can go
and
with that.
it's beautiful. I mean, it really is. $1,200 for this particular model. There's a few I think that they've also kind of teased and quietly released throughout the year. So there's a few gradient versions. Like there's a gray kind of gradient. There's a red gradient.
I was gonna
But
say,
this
I
one,
know there's a red or an orange. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's this one is kind of the more recent release, and they're technically listing it as a special edition. Not limited to my understanding, but a special edition because it actually comes with the mesh bracelet and the Tropic.
Oh baby.
So it's actually a 2-for-1 here with this particular variation. And it's a little bit more expensive than the standard Ocean Stars. Those will come in around 990 for the strap models. But this is perfect at 1200 for nice Milanese mesh bracelet. Goes with the vintage aesthetic. 80-hour power reserve, day date. I
Yeah,
mean,
Power
this is a
Mac
lot,
80.
and Power Mag 80. I mean, this is a lot to get in a very small package. And you get two great looks with this particular watch. So I think it's very solid.
Yeah, 40 and one half millimeters. So not too shabby at all in the dimensions department.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very clean watch.
Yeah, and uh just because I'm thinking of blue watches, I know you mentioned before the show, our friends over at Mr. Jones making moves, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Making moves, that is for sure. So if you didn't see this or catch it over the weekend, Basically, I'm convinced that we helped launch and catapult Mr. Jones back into success. We saw it featured on a lot of different brands and different blogs. Basically, after we covered it on some of the episodes that we did early on.
Right. Was that
Uh,
that was the last year's Father's Day episode? We were talking about
yes,
a fun watch for dad, and you mentioned the what is it? I can't remember the name of it. It's like the
it's
lazy
a
afternoon,
perfectly lazy afternoon.
something like that. But since then, that watch has been everywhere. Coincidentally,
Yes, it has. Yeah, it's a perfectly lazy afternoon. I'm sorry, a perfectly useless afternoon.
useless. That was it.
Perfectly
I knew
useless
it wasn't lazy.
afternoon. And basically up until now, this watch had been, a quartz watch. There was a few different sizes. There was like a 41 or 42 millimeter, and then the kind of more classic reserve size was 37. Mr. Jones has now split the difference at 40 millimeters, but has made the watch fully mechanical, which I think is very cool. And I think for a lot of wits out there that were kind of like, this is a watch that's cool, but it's not really gonna stroke my ego in the way that I can flip it over and look at the mechanical movement, all that stuff. Now you can, which I think is very cool. It's a very interesting timepiece. Obviously, has been very successful for them to opt to make it mechanical, which I think is kind of funny because, as I mentioned, we talked about this last year, and it just has been consistently on people's minds since then. There was a dark edition that came out at one point too. There was like a didn't we see the black one?
I think
Where
so.
it was
Yeah.
like at night almost. Um, but very cool to see them to upgrade this watch into a different version with the automatic movement. So I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. Let's talk Chris Ward. Chris Ward put out a watch simply called the 12. It's a titanium watch, and it comes in a variety of flavors. You have sort of a bright blue gradient, a purple, an ice, navy, and sort of a white and a gray, I think.
Hmm.
It's reminiscent. I've seen a lot of people say it looks like a Chapek. I'm inclined to agree. Um, what really is amazing about this watch is it comes in under 9 millimeters thick. It's 40 mils, but it comes in under
It's
nine,
insane.
which is nuts with the Salida SW300. Um, Given the sort of quirky style of the bracelet, it is 25 millimeters, but it's also you're not going to change the bracelet on this watch, so
No, it's totally integrated.
so no biggie there. But yeah, you get very much that Chapek style. I don't know what kind of bracelet you would call this, but it's just a very aggressive tapered bracelet, and I mean, it's neat. Like you said, it's definitely not for everybody, but I dig it. I mean, it's kind of got a little bit of an Aquaterra vibe with the 6 date.
And even the hour markers. I mean, the
Yeah,
hour,
I
hour
agree.
markers to me look very Seamaster Aquaterra
When I
esque.
squint, I think Aquaterra. Yeah, it comes in at 1895. This bad boy. Yeah, I feel like you're either gonna love it or you're gonna not so much. It's kind of how I feel.
Well, to me, this watch is very forward of Christopher Ward, which I think is a good thing. They need to diversify, they need to change, and they've been doing a lot of great things
Yeah, great.
recently. And for me, I think this is a step in the right direction. Now, stylistically, I'm not one for the integrated sports watch look. That's not a Christopher Ward slant. That's just in general, it's not my cup of tea, unless it's a very specific watch. But I'm not rushing out to buy these types of pieces. I think they have certainly their moment, but I don't know if in the next 5 years we're all gonna be like, remember when we all pulled the trigger on these watches, and we're kind of like, it's not really the thing anymore. Um, so we'll see what happens. But I like the design overall. The dial texture is insane. The finish work is amazing. The thin profile of this watch, I think,
It's
is a
wild.
huge selling point. Um, and if you look at the product design shots of this watch, you have the scalloped the bezel that has its own polish, max set against the angular sides of the case. You have the incredibly finished dial. There's a lot of attention to detail here. There's a lot of work that went into making this case and this bracelet design, and to make it a cohesive unit. So if you are on the fence about this watch, go get it, because artistically this is an amazing watch from a brand that is still very accessible and very much setting the trend, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, and I think uh, Seaward's been sort of creeping their way up in past years, and now I think they're really, really going for it. I mean, the Bel Canto,
But
this,
it's justifiable to me because if you're doing in-house movements, you're pushing technology, those are things that justify it. If you're just going to start sitting here arbitrarily raising prices because now you have much more notoriety behind you,
yeah,
I don't agree with that. But if you're innovating, you're creating complications, you're going in-house on a lot of pieces, to me, I'm willing to spend more money because I can understand the direction of your brand. That makes sense. It's the same conversation with Oris, right?
right.
It's like Oris is like the value proposition for a lot of times. And now we're hitting that 4 to 5 range on some of these Oris models because they're in house, because they're doing big power reserves, they're doing anti magnetic technology. Those things make sense. That's just a natural progression of your R&D.
Yep.
It's going to get more expensive, period. So, get them while you still can. And then while they still are a value proposition.
Yeah. All right. Up next, we'll go Yema. This is an interesting release from them, and I guess I'm not really surprised. They very much go to the beat of their own drum with almost all their watches, and this is no
Totally.
exception. So this is the Urban Field Watch. You can get this in 37.5 or 40, and a variety of bracelets. Sort of a bond clip, beads of rice, leather, um, and then this other one that we don't know what to call it. They look like tiny pills. We're gonna go with the capsule link bracelet.
Yeah,
It's
the
just a name
capsule link.
we came up on our own.
Don't stone us.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
our own, it's our own
There's
thing
no
here.
other way to describe this. I said it looks more like rice than the actual beads of rice, to be honest.
Yeah, it does. But it
Um,
looks like a bunch of pills. So instead of saying
yeah,
pills, we went with
oh,
capsule
capsule.
link. So
Shout out to Dragon Ball Z Capsule
there you
Corp,
go.
but
Capsule core, right?
Capsule Corp. Yeah. But yeah, no, just very, very interesting. This specific bracelet. It kind of looks like it's high polished too, which
It is.
should be very interesting. But the watch
And
overall is super out there.
and for the no taper bros, keep it moving
Oh yeah,
because
not for you.
there's definitely no taper on this bracelet whatsoever.
But yeah, I mean it's definitely very, very interesting. So you have, a mix of different indices. You have very skinny, very sharp hands. You've got an aggressive minute track, and it comes in a variety of flavors from sort of a champagne or mustard color, a green, a blue, a black, and a silver. It has an SW21B hand wand movement. And this watch is ridiculously thin at 7.8 millimeters, which is also nuts.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like it a lot. I
I
I
do
dig
too.
this. I
I
want to
do
see
too.
this one in person because I think it's funky to the point where I don't know if it's going to be too funky, but I'm down to find out.
Yeah. It's an interesting design. Not something I picked pictures from Yema because they typically do. I don't know, maybe much more traditional military watches is kind of a way to say it. But I get a lot of Serica vibes from this. I know you
Yes.
and I were talking about this offline. Obviously not the same at all, but I get a lot of those kind of like revamped vintage military watch vibes, which is something that Serica does really well. I think this kind of highlighted, especially with the Bond clip bracelet, and that kind of design. I think is certainly something that Serica has really worked on and kind of made their own for a while. But I like the watch. I think it's very cool. It's very distinctive. My only gripe is I wish the handset was a little bit wider to make it a little bit more legible against the dial, especially being that this is a military timepiece.
Yep.
Legibility is certainly a key factor there, but that's something that I could overlook. The price point is pretty decent on this watch. The design colorations are pretty cool. I really like the silver dial with the black indexes. I think that's very hot. Um, I think it's a great design. And for a manual one movement, it's obviously a Swiss made caliber, so I think you're getting exactly what you need.
Yeah, definitely. Again, another brand that's kind of been doing some funky stuff, sort of, in their own little wheelhouse, but I dig it. You know, I respect that. Um, I Yeah, before we go on, all right, Schmidt, what's going on with this Moon Swatch situation?
What do you mean?
Well, did you see the one they put out now?
I
It's got
did.
the pink
The
loom,
pink loom I saw.
tiny little piece of pink.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know. The answer is I don't know. But love it or hate it. I'm in the neither camp at this point because for me, I still like the Moon Swatch. I still try to get them for people that want them. Um, I have respect for what they're doing, but I can understand how it can be misconceived as a cash grab. But at the end of the day, that's what all wet sales are anyway. So uh you're trying to sell stuff. So is it something I wish that they would change a little bit more? Absolutely. I think so. Um, but I don't know. I just know that they're gonna sell out every single one of them. So love it or hate it. We can hate it from afar because we're not in Vegas, which I think was the U.S. launch location.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think so.
I know our buddy Lorenzo and his whole crew got them. So if you want any live photos, bro, just hit up Lorenzo because he has it. He picked his up a few hours ago, but I mean the lines are crazy. People bought them, and there you go.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I wish they would just change it around a little more as opposed to
I,
just
I agree. I agree. But maybe that's just this particular one that they're going to do this year in different variations for
yeah,
different launches to make it all slightly unique and special. And again, I think the biggest challenge for making this is, technically this watch is a little bit more expensive than the rest of the collection,
right.
but that's because of the alloy itself. So I'm wondering if they just really can't deviate too much from that because then it would drastically alter the price. And that completely unbiasedly is the only logical conclusion that I can come to as to why they don't.
All right, I
Who
guess we're gonna
knows?
find out. I guess we will find out. And the only other interesting thing I saw, I don't know if you saw this one. I usually can't stand Jacob and Co., but they did you see the little roulette watch they have?
I must
It's
have
so
missed it.
it's got a roulette wheel in it, and you push the button and it drops the ball and it spins it,
Okay.
and then it comes up on a number eventually. It actually takes kind of a long time, but it's just I don't know. It's kind of fun. I mean, I'm sure it's absurdly expensive and ridiculous, but you push the button, it drops the ball, the roulette wheel goes around, and it comes up just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
roulette in a number.
It's is it the roulette tourbillon?
I I'm sure it is. I didn't even get the name. I just kind of caught it in passing, and I was like, that's cool.
But it's not the Astronomia one, right?
I'm not sure.
Or
I saw
so
a
so
video.
there's one that's like it's basically mostly the roulette dial, and it almost looks like a minute repeater lever on the side, but that's what it does.
No, not that one. It's a
But
different one.
then there's the Astronomia, which has like the Earth, like a model of the Earth that spins around the dial.
No,
Is
it's
it
not
that
the
one?
Astronomia. I think it's the other one.
Okay. Is it like just like a simple plain dial?
I believe. Let me see if I can find it.
It's got to be this one.
Casino Roulette Tourbillon.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. It's the one I'm thinking of. So it's just a simple dial. It's just hour and minute.
Yep. And then
Okay.
around the outside is the roulette wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I could see some DGen gamblers getting down on this, like on their private jet. They're like, "All right, guys," and they just start throwing money in and taking bets on what's going to come up.
Yeah. This is a twin crown tourbillon.
Yep,
Yeah,
that
very
is.
interesting. So you got one crown to wind it, one crown to set the time. Oof, good. Hope nobody breaks it. But it's
Yeah,
cool.
that was the other thing I thought of. How much would this be to service?
So the retail price point from what it looks like is 280,000
Pff,
US. Chump
pocket
change.
change. Yeah,
72-hour power reserve and 44 millimeters of solid rose gold. Um, yeah, it's not inexpensive.
I wasn't planning on getting one, but I
Yeah,
thought it was a neat party trick.
not inexpensive by any stretch. So yeah, don't break it.
Nope. 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 All right, our topic for this eve. I know it's a wee bit early in the month here,
But we
but
like to be early.
we do like to
Okay.
be early. In fact, I checked, and we were. This was around the time we were starting talking about our summer watch choices previously. We're not necessarily talking summer watches tonight, but we decided to pass on a Mother's Day episode because I don't know. It just it's just not
Well,
us.
we kind of covered that last year too.
Right. Yeah.
We did
Okay.
like what watches we would pick for our wives, kind of Mother's Day type situation, right? Isn't
Right.
that something that
So
we did last year?
in the name of not getting too repetitive or predictable or whatever, we do have another holiday coming up later this month, and it kind of carries us through the summer, and they all have a similar theme, right? Between Memorial Day, Fourth of July, right? It's a very ending with Labor Day. It's a very patriotic time of year,
Yes.
and so what better, at least in the states here, than a nice Pepsi colored watch,
The good old red, white, and blue, baby.
right? So I feel like, certainly in recent years, Pepsi has made a comeback, right? Especially given that they brought back the Pepsi GMT from, not just white gold. Because at one point it was only in white
Yeah, it was
gold,
only a white gold.
right? And
Yes,
they
I
they they
how quickly we forget when Rolex slided us out. They're like, all right, the Pepsi's back, but only in precious, and everyone's like, oh, great.
yeah, so that was a white gold oyster, and then they brought it back in, on Jubilee in steel, right? And everybody kind of went bonkers. Then you got your Black Bay
But wasn't
GMT.
the meteorite first,
Oh, that's a good
or
question.
was it the steel oyster, then meteorite precious, then steel jubilee?
I don't remember the progression on that, but they definitely all came after the white gold.
Yes, absolutely, for sure, without a doubt.
So then you got your Black Bay GMT to sort of satisfy the masses, and then you had a lot of people fall in line. Now that doesn't mean that many of them weren't already making Pepsi watches,
Hmm.
but they
Hmm.
certainly we certainly got a bigger offering
Yes.
of Pepsi between that drop and now. Um, I know I own a few. I I know you own at least one.
Yeah, I have a few red, white, and blue
Yeah.
watches actually.
Um, Coincidentally, it lines up nicely with a few of my sports teams, being the Rangers and Giants and what have you. So it's always nice to be able to coordinate when you go to a game as well, just to be, a little extra nerdy.
Oh my god.
Um,
You.
yeah, have
But
to.
no, I
Have
know
to.
exactly what you mean.
So
When I have to sport my Cowboys, it's always blue and stars. So that's it for me. I know. I know, guys. I'm a Cowboys fan. It's fine.
it's
It's fine.
fine. I was watching
It's fine, but not fine.
I was watching Always Sunny rerun the other day, and he's like, and they're at the Eagles Super Bowl, and he's like, "What are you talking about, Mac? You're a Cowboys fan." He goes, "I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm a Tony Romo fan, and he's
God.
retired, so now I bleed green."
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Just
The Cowboys, they always let me down. It's fine.
it's fine. You had a good run in the '90s. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
Like this team.
we're talking Pepsi today. We're gonna rattle off some of our favorite Pepsis. Maybe some overlooked, some underrated Pepsis. I know that's always sort of our angle. I mean, we obviously I just mentioned the Rolex. I just mentioned the Tudor.
Although
Tudor,
the new tutor's nice.
it's making its way around. It's got a lot of good reviews. People I know who have handled it have liked the Opaline. They've said it's really nice, including our buddy Matt McD. He said he's
Mm,
he's
yeah,
he's a
yeah,
fan. I know Lucy over in England. She's a fan, or the UK. I'm sorry, I don't know what you guys call it these days. But
yeah.
a lot of people have been saying a lot of good things about it. So I'll reserve my judgment until I see it. I did have the blacked out version. I did pass that on a little while ago, but it kind of, if I could be honest, it kind of suffers from a lot of the, I don't want to say issues, but it's just it's that first run of Tudors were very clunky tool watch,
Yeah.
and now I mean, you've seen in this episode we've mentioned these watches coming out in ridiculous, slim,
Profiles.
contoured, streamlined dimensions now. And when you throw something like that GMT back on your wrist, it just feels like a refrigerator at some
Yep.
point.
Yep.
And eventually, I just got kind of tired of it, so I moved along. But it is what it is. I enjoyed it. I liked Tudor a lot, and I'm glad that they're starting to really put work into their sort of streamlining their offering in that respect. I know a lot of people wanted that, but that's probably all the Rolex talk we're going to have for quite a bit here. I will start it off here, going back to a watch that is also a sort of traveler's companion GMT. It's a vintage boy. They do have a newer version of this, but I'm a big fan of the vintage one. So Zodiac has
I
an
knew it. I
aerospace.
knew it. I knew you were gonna call
Yeah,
it.
and I remember, what's funny is I was on Wrist Check Pod, and I was trying to remember the reference name of this watch, and I what happens to me with this watch is it has the same name as another watch, right? Breitling Aerospace. So I always in my head when the name doesn't come to me, I just say it has the same name as another watch, and I sit there and I think of other watches with like sort of
Mm-hmm.
aeronautical themes, and I land
Yeah.
on a bunch of them,
Yeah.
and none of them are right. But it's the aerospace. It's got your 50/50 Pepsi bezel, white dial,
Yep. Good
and
looking watch.
yeah,
Such a good looking
and the
watch.
old ones have this super cool bracelet on them. It's very vintage,
Yeah.
very like jangly, but in like a good way.
Yeah. It's almost like an H link, but like a or like a ladder style bracelet. It
Right? Yeah,
looks
that's exactly
yeah.
what I was thinking.
It's such a cool thing. And that those old Bakelite bezels, man, just
Can't beat them. I mean,
you can't beat them.
I still lust after
You
those light
can't
blue ones.
replicate it either. I mean, you could do all the sapphire you want, but at the end of the day, nothing beats the acrylic Bakelite. So
Yeah, I mean that's a killer watch, and they have a newer one where you can get sort of the newer motif, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's
and that was the one they did for toppers, right? It was like a special edition they did for toppers, which is the new red, white, and blue one.
oh, you know what? I think you're right. I think that was a topper edition. Now that I think about it, I think you're right about that.
Yeah,
But yeah, so they brought it back again. The new ones are cool, but I've become very much a an OG vintage bro in
yeah.
my recent years, and so I'm all about that vintage one. But again, Zodiac's come a long way. Our buddy Mike's doing killer things. That dude is everywhere, by the way. I don't know if you follow his stories, dude. He's like the traveling circus.
Yeah.
He was in
And
Wind Up. Next thing you know,
you
he's in
and
like
Matt were talking
Nebraska.
quite a bit
Yeah,
about Zodiac on 2 episodes ago,
yeah,
and I think you're right. You know, I still firmly stand by the idea that Zodiac is a brand that's making a lot of aggressive moves, but still isn't quite getting the recognition it really does deserve.
I mean, that ceramic
Um,
is wild.
the ceramic, the rainbow, the sherbet, I mean the lime popsicle, whatever you want to call them. All of these watches are really really well done. And I think that, what I love about Zodiac is again they have their own design language, and they do things kind of to the beat of their own drum, which I like. And I mean this super chroma, the rainbow skeletonized diver is a perfect indication of that.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming.
Nope. Nope.
Myself included. I mean, yeah, I could see the rainbow, but they're like, you know what? We're gonna rainbow it. We're gonna make the hands super legible, which most brands don't do, and then we're gonna skeletonize it. And you're like, damn. And all we got was a Kermit from Oris. So you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
just I don't know. They do their own thing. They have such incredible back catalog as well. So I cannot wait to see what more comes out of from this brand. So
Yeah.
Mike, tell the R&D boys at Zodiac that they're doing God's work. They're pulling out some cool stuff. So thank you.
And please bring back another golf color. I mean, that's what happened is
Mm,
everybody liked that watch before people were like warm on Zodiac again, and they were gone by the time anybody was like, yeah, you know what, I'll do it, and then they were all
yep,
gone. I
yep.
remember it must have been Wind Up 2018, 17. Anyway,
Okay.
but Zodiac was down in I remember the far end of the old venue, and everybody who was in that corner was just like, "Is the Gulf here?" And they're like, "No, there are none left. They're not coming back. There is no more Gulf." And they're like, "Ah, like that
This
was
is this
all
is
anybody
the
wanted to
light
see."
blue and orange
Yes,
GMT, right?
yes, yes.
Such a good color.
Oh my god! But like that was what put Zodiac back on the map. That
Yeah,
watch, it
yeah,
was so good, so good.
yeah. That's mm, yes, sir.
Yeah,
I still want the aquamarine dream, but that's just me.
I've seen a ton of pictures of it. It still looks good.
Yeah, every time it still looks good. Melts my heart.
All right, buddy, lay one on me here.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with an unconventional pick. This is make sure I get the right reference number for all you reference number bros out there. So it has two different reference numbers, but this is the Seiko 62 Moss Patty Edition from about
Okay.
2017, 2018. First reference code is SBDC055 or the SPB071J1. So I'm assuming that's not Japanese domestic versus Japanese domestic is kind of what I think.
Uh-huh.
I remember when these watches first came out, I fell in love with them. I think they're super cool. The dial is amazing. It's a nice kind of electric blue to black gradient, almost kind of like a James Cameron deep sea effect.
Yes.
But you have the Patty colorway there, so you have the red, white, and blue for the International Patty diving logo, which is fantastic. Came on a nice silicone rubber strap. Everything about this watch is cool. It's a 62 Moss, so it's a kind of that retro sport diver. It had the older kind of like modern 62 Moss handset, so the broad arrow handset,
Yep.
but really cool watch. I own this watch personally, which is one of my favorite watches to wear on holidays, specifically Memorial Day, 4th of July, anything Flag Day, whatever it might be. This type of watch is really really cool, and it gets a lot of attention. Plus, the loom is insane, and which is to be expected with Seiko. But I really do love the fact that this particular watch has bicolor loom, which is
Oh
kind of
yeah, it's always
unusual
really cool.
for Seiko,
Yep.
as far as I understand. So certain parts of the markers are blue, certain parts of the hands are green, or vice versa. So you can easily see what it is differentiated from everything else. And this is an upgraded movement. It's a 6R15, not a 4R series. So it's actually a nicer finished movement as well.
Yeah, and is this that has a wave pattern on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost got like it's kind of a mix of a lot of things, but it's almost kind of got like a 90s 300-meter
Yeah, that's,
Seamaster
that's what it looks like.
wave dial motif to it. And then you mix that with like the Rolex, James Cameron deep sea gradient. It's kind of a funny color or mashup watch, but when you see it in person, it just works. Like it's so good,
Very
so
nice.
good.
Yeah, and I guess I'll while we're here, I'll just shoot the entire Seiko motherload off here. So I mean, Lord knows they do enough. Pepsi. I mean, obviously the SKX 009 comes
Yep.
to mind, and its counterpart 7548 that Norman Schwarzkopf made popular come to
Mm.
mind.
That was the
Um,
quartz version, right?
yes, I that
Yeah.
I have that one. The Arnie that they just released, they have in just released. The newer Arnie is they offer it in a Pepsi colorway, right? That 38 millimeter solar they offer in a Pepsi colorway.
Yep.
And then probably my favorite Pepsi Seiko is the Pad Eye Turtle.
Now with the patty turtle.
So it's I believe it's SRP A21, I think it is. So it's Pepsi bezel, but blue dial.
Yeah.
It's got like a sunburst blue dial on it, and they just nailed the color on the blue.
Yeah. I have that
So
watch.
so good.
I have that watch.
I used to wear that with my Ranger jersey every time I went to the Garden, and every time I'd be like, "This blue is
Yeah.
just
When
unbeatable."
you see it in natural light is when it really sings. When you see it in natural light, it's beautiful. It's a sunray finish blue. It's gorgeous, and I love the fact that it's not overly Pepsi because you only have a certain quarter portion of the bezel that's going to be in the alternate color.
Right.
Um, but it's such a good looking watch. I was actually wearing it earlier today because I was thinking about what we were gonna do for the episode. I was like, I need to get in the right mindset, and I didn't pick that watch specifically because I was like, you know what, bro's probably gonna pick this one.
Oh,
So,
100%.
so I need to go a little bit off the beaten path and pick something that most people probably haven't seen, or if they have seen it, it's been a long time since they thought about it. So
Yeah, and just the red outline on the minute hand contrasting against that blue dial is just
yeah,
it's the best. I every time I look at it, I'm
Patty
like,
Turtle,
this is
baby.
great. This is great. And I that has stood the test of time for me.
No, I mean, and I think if I remember correctly, that was one of the first really kind of cool turtles that came out because you had
Yeah.
like the regular versions, and then the Patty Turtle came out, and it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is
Out
cool.
there.
It was out there for the time, you know. Now we're like, God, there's Patty on every Seiko out there, you know. But at the time, that was certainly very different and very cool for them to do that collaboration.
Definitely. So I wanted to get all the Seikos out in one shot because Lord knows I have enough of them and I could probably go on longer, but I digress. I will give you another here. Well, you know what? I'm gonna get this one out of the way too because I feel like everybody probably already said this one to themselves with probably a little bit of an eye roll, but I'm gonna give the props to the Timex Q
Yep, I knew it.
and QGMT
Yep.
because they dropped that in Pepsi also. But the Timex Q, man, that was such a phenomenon. Like
Oh
thinking
my
back on
God.
that, I know now we kind of take it for granted and it's here and
It's
everybody has
saved
one and whatever.
Timex. It saved Timex.
But when that came out, and again, this was during the Pepsi craze, right? The Pepsi GMT was all the rage, couldn't get one, impossible, hottest watch on the market. And then all of a sudden, these came along, and everybody could get one. And initially, you couldn't, but once
Yeah.
they restocked, you could, and every single person
But
had one.
you remember when Houdinki wrote the article about this, everyone went into a frenzy about this watch, and they sold out in minutes.
These were selling for $500 on eBay.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. And I had a buddy of mine who the Q Timex that I have is actually the one that he gave to me because he bought the second version. He bought the restock.
Okay,
So he saw he couldn't get the original drop, and he's like, you know what? I'll wait, and they restock it, and it's meant to be. Then I'll get it. And he got it, and I was just like, this is so freaking cool. And he's like, just take it. It's like $180 or whatever it is, you know, at the time or whatever it was. There's still 189 now, but um, it was. I just remember thinking like, how cool a watch could be that's so simple and so basic, and yet make you feel things that watches hadn't really made you feel in a while. The idea of nostalgia, the idea of good build quality for something that was relatively inexpensive. Now the bracelet sucks. We all know that. It will shred your arms. But as a good boy from Strap Habit came out, he's got his new launch of Q
that's right.
interchangeable straps. So I'm going to plug that for him right there. But a phenomenal watch for not a lot of money, and it's just a cool watch because I've seen so many people wear this watch, in the different variations that are not even watch collectors. They just like this watch is cool, and I wanted to buy it. You know what I mean? And to me, that's when a watch has hit peak mainstream pop culture, is when even outside of the fringe community that really supports it, you still have people wearing it, and I think that that's cool. And I really do believe this watch changed Timex for the better. Like this watch had to have saved the company because you can only sell so many easy readers to
and
geriatrics before you're about to go insolvent. I'm
and
sorry.
the Snoopy Marlin.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but this was the first one. Like, this was
Yeah.
the first collectible Timex in, I don't know, 60 years. You know what I mean? Like, nobody was rushing out to buy an Iron Man. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And today, didn't they just do a release with Huckberry, like
Yep.
Timex, and they did an Iron Man like 90s reissue or something like that? You think anybody would have really cared about that watch if this watch hadn't laid the groundwork? If this watch hadn't gotten people to think about Timex again? Hell no. They'd be like, "Why are you doing this? This is irrelevant."
No, this was a cool release. It got people sort of warming up to courts again,
Yeah,
right? You had the neat little battery hatch in the back. You could change the battery yourself with just a
which is
coin.
which is how the Timexes used to be back
Yeah.
in the
Yep.
70s.
But I think it was a lot of nostalgia. It was fun. It was priced right,
Yes.
right? And it came at a time where it was just very on trend. And boy, it took off.
I mean, again, I'm gonna stand by it. I do believe this and the manual wine Marlin like catapulted Timex into relevancy and really helped to shape a new generation of Timex owners for the next generation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That I mean, we wouldn't have a quartz Q chronograph GMT without this type of watch starting to blaze a trail. So I think it's cool, man. I love it. I know it was on my list, so there you go.
All right, broski, you're up.
Okay, so if we're going with a slightly more affordable piece, I'm still gonna go mechanical because I think that that's kind of cool. We've talked about this one a little while ago. It's probably been maybe 6, 7 months ago, but this is the Bulova A11 Hack, specifically the blue dot,
Mm-hmm.
which is a more recent color edition. It comes in a brown like NATO strappy thing, which can certainly work. But if you really want to make it super patriotic, you can swap that out for something more red, white, and blue. But the dial is a beautiful shade of blue. It's got the nice bright white kind of Flieger pilot style hands with a nice red needle point. Second hand, to me, it's just very low key, very classic. 37 millimeters. So for those of you that might be smaller wristed, perfect watch for you. And I think it's just good looking. It's subtle, it's low key. If you want to feel patriotic without being too crazy, then go with something like this.
Yeah, and I think this sort of very aggressive bezel it has on it takes a pretty tame, plain looking watch and kind of dresses it up like
Yep.
really, makes it pop a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you get the military vibe, you get the pilot vibe, and you get it in sort of a fun color situation here. Uh, it's classy, it'll work on anybody. It's a can't miss in that regard. And I think a lot of people are a fan of this watch. I mean, after we had spoken about it, I know it showed up in a few places. I think it showed up on Worn and Wound, and then I saw it in a few places. I was like, oh, other,
Yeah.
other people are into this watch too. All right, so that's cool. Like, it's always neat to
Yeah.
see, like, especially brands like Bulova, because they're out there and they make decent stuff. I mean, they make a pretty wide array of things, but to see that they get a little recognition once in a while for doing some good stuff is nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
yeah, I also had a couple of Bulovas sort of just jotted down. I've spoken before about the Bulova surfboard.
Yep.
They have that in two different red, white, and blue colorways. So they
Yes.
have a white dial blue surfboard, blue dial
White
white
surfboard.
surfboard. I think it is. And what's funny is I actually in browsing them, I actually found out Invicta has a
They
surfboard.
do. I
It,
saw it
you
today
saw
as
that?
well. Yes. I think they called that line the speed timer or something like that. I'm
Something.
like,
I was just
wow.
like, oh man, an Invicta surfboard. Who knew?
Yeah, yep, yep. I saw that too. I was like,
Thought that was an
guys,
interesting little nugget.
so cringe.
Um, but yeah, Bulova, very cool company. Very, I don't want to say they're off the radar. Like I know people know they exist, and I know they are indeed a popular company. People buy their stuff, but just I feel like at times they don't get the shine maybe that they deserve in some of those regards.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that for sure.
Um,
You have
all
the
right,
stars and stripes on there too.
yeah, and also now there's the stars and stripes, and then there's two different versions I was thinking of. They're not both stars and stripes. One of them has like the stars and stripes has the like the firecracker hands, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
they
So that
literally
one
look
is
like fire,
straight out
like
of
rock,
straight out of
like
4th of July.
yeah, exactly. They look like rockets, bottle
Yeah,
rockets.
and I couldn't find what the other one I was thinking of was. They made a version similar to that was more expensive. It was like 2 or 3 grand or something, or maybe four. But I couldn't find what it was. But I remember it, and I remember it was super patriotic looking. I was like, I think it had like a striped second hand or something. Like it reminded me of that Stars and Stripes, but it was definitely in the more expensive range. And I for some reason I can't remember the name of it or any defining characteristics enough to find it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's escaping me at the moment. But yeah, that Stars and Stripes definitely came to mind. Like if there's a Murica watch, like that's it.
Yeah. I mean, especially for something like 4th of July where the hands are literally rockets, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it's very, very cool.
yeah, yeah,
Could you imagine if you found an original? That would be so awesome.
yeah. The OG would be cool. Um, I'm astonished we haven't stumbled on an Omega yet. There, Schmidt.
I'm keeping it in the pipeline.
All right, well I got two. So which one do you have?
Why don't you tell me what you have and I'll tell you which
All right,
one.
I will go with the one that I think you don't have.
Okay.
I will go with the 300-meter Commander's watch.
Ooh, good choice. I did not
Okay.
pick
I
that one.
yeah, I knew that wasn't the one you went with. I know which one you took. But
Okay. I'm curious
but
to know. I want to hear if you know
for
is
those who don't
too.
know, the Commander's watch is sort of the 007 era, the Brosnan era Seamaster 300 meter, except it's got a white dial and it's got blue and red accents. It does have sort of the 007 second hand that I know a lot of people are not fans of, but it's red and it pops really really hard against the dial. But I always have loved that era of 300 meter, and so
And
for
the
me
movement's super cool on this
for
one.
me it's a hit. I know probably for not for everybody, but I like it.
Well, back when I was still in retail and selling watches, this was one of the ones that I sold. It was kind of like the last thing that I was selling. Um, Very cool watch, and the case back is phenomenal. It's a very, very, very cool case back. Well, I should say it's an exposed case back, so you're actually seeing the movement, but the movement itself is very well decorated, very well finished, and it looks very cool because it's the only other watch that looked like this. All
I
right, so
also
if you
I also
so if,
like the red numeral in the date.
yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I want to say it's a roulette date. I want to say it's a roulette date. I cannot remember though. But either way, it's cool. And the bezel, I don't know if if you knew this, bro. The bezel actually the 15-minute scale is actually red rubber.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's injected red rubber into the ceramic. So very odd technologies and finishing that went into the Commander's watch, which is why I low key love it. Again, my only gripe, if you will, would be the 007 on the second hand. I could do without that. But overall, I think the watch is very cool. They're starting to see the prices come up quite a bit on those. I was looking at them today and I was like, 7 grand, eight
Yeah.
grand. I was like, that's a few $1,000s more than it was actually sold for in the stores. Because I remember I think they were right around the $5,000 to $6,000 price point, which is kind of cool to see them continuing to go up. So very cool watch. So I want to hear from you which one you think I picked
I
in
thought you
Omega.
took the Planet Ocean Olympic.
Planet Ocean Olympic,
It's an Olympic version Planet Ocean.
but it's Olympic Planet Ocean.
Yeah.
Oh, is it the blue dial?
Yeah. So blue dial, blue bezel, red 15-minute scale. And then it comes on like a red
A
and
blue and
blue.
red rubber.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's the one. That's the one I thought
So,
you had.
so I don't have that one.
Okay. All
I
right.
have the later version of it, which is basically done for the America's Cup, the 36th anniversary America's
Oh,
Cup.
yes, we talked about this one before.
So this is a white dial Planet
Yeah,
Ocean,
I see that.
uh, blue ceramic bezel, the white and the I'm sorry, the first 5 minutes of the countdown bezel are in white ceramic. The next five are in red ceramic. So what makes this bezel cool is Omega was able to combine three different colors of ceramic into the same bezel. First company in the world to do it, which I absolutely love. Um, This was done for the 36th America's Cup. I keep wanting to say anniversary. It's not an anniversary. 36th America's Cup. So you have a blue second hand with the little America's Cup mug on the back,
Hmm.
the trophy itself, and on the case back you have kind of this mug trophy pattern as well. They call it the Ald mug, by the way. That's why I keep saying mug. They call it the Ald mug, which is a giant trophy for all America's Cup winners, and they have kind of this repeating pattern outward. Uh, this is a very cool watch in person. The dial is super, super, super bright white. So to me, this is be like the ultimate patriotic Omega out there. This one's hot. Long
Yes.
since sold out, unfortunately, because it was a limited edition, but very, very cool watch.
Yes. Seeing the actual photos of it, that white is
It's
bright.
crisp. It's crisp. It's like snow white.
Yeah. Jeez. But yeah, no, that's out there. That is not what I had picked out for you. I almost got it, but it wasn't it.
You were close. I will say that you were very
Yeah,
close.
yeah. And you were correct.
But
That
this
is a
one was just
roulette.
one step further with the red, white, and blue.
The commander's watch is indeed a roulette tape.
Ah, see, okay, man, I still got it after all these
And you know what's weird is
years.
I'm you know what it is? I'm used to the roulette having the for some reason I'm used to roulette having red on even numbers. And on this one it's
Okay,
on the odd.
it's on the odds. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that threw me for a little bit of a loop. And most of the product photos have seven, probably because of 007.
yeah.
So
007.
so
Yes,
it's
yes, yes.
a little off-putting in that regard. But yeah, another good pick. I guess in the name of time here, I'll just rattle off. I got three more left. I got the Aqua Racer GMT, which is just
Okay,
a
yeah, 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 yeah.
Pepsi bezel,
Yep, yep.
black dial. It has the sort of stripe dial to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Aqua Scaff GMT, the Baltic,
Ooh.
a little out there, a little off the path there, but it's their Aqua Scaff with basically a red and blue bezel. And then of course I think it would be wrong not to mention the Orient Mako,
Ooh, okay, good.
right?
Yeah.
Orient Mako. I mean, it started so many people's collecting journeys. Why not? Has to be there.
I agree as well. Now, I will say my last pick for what I have is a little bit off the cuff, I think, especially because it was a capsule collection piece. But my last pick is the Breitling Navitimer Pan Am.
Okay, that's a good one.
I love this watch.
That's a good one.
I don't have the $9,000 to throw down and buy a Breitling, or else I would own it. But as soon as this watch came out a few years ago, I fell in love with the watch immediately. I love the colorway. I love the play of the red, white, and blue and the concentric portions of the scale. I love the fact that it came on several different bracelet options, leather, 70s like metal rivet hole bracelet. Then you had the Milanese mesh bracelet, which Breitling does so well. It's really a phenomenal watch, and I love it because it's a 70s Navitimer,
Yeah, it is.
right? It's got the block hands and markers. It's got the block and stick markers for the sub dials for the chrono. It's just a very cool watch and a beautiful use of color. I absolutely love it. Now, I don't understand the Pan Am affiliation at all because Breitling didn't do anything with Pan Am, as we know. And Pan Am has long been defunct as an airline company for many, many, many years. So I'm not sure how they secured the licensing for this particular collaboration because it does have the Pan Am logo on the back.
Okay.
But regardless, I think it's a very cool watch. I've always been enamored with it. I've always loved the design. I think it's so 70s, and in many ways, kind of the anti Navitimer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels different to me.
I mean, it's just everything that your traditional Navitimer is not. It's bright. It's way out there, right? This doesn't necessarily read particularly military or nautical or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's it's just very bold, to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's definitely an out there pick. I completely forgot this existed.
I think a lot of people have, and I think it's such a cool like hidden gem Navitimer that like if I had the money to go and throw down for a Breitling, this would be on my very short list because it's just cool. It's different, and you
Sure
know me
is.
and my collection. I don't like to have the same stuff that everyone else has. So if I'm gonna show up to the meetup with a Navitimer, like this is the one I'm bringing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. All right then. Uh, I guess that's it then, huh? I guess we can call this one. We have exhausted our Pepsi list here.
And that's time for a Pepsi.
Yeah, exactly. My throat is a little bit hoarse. Cinco de Mayo. I ate a lot of salty food tonight, so
Yeah, a lot of fajitas, a lot of walk.
yeah. So again, thanks to the listeners for joining us all 100,000 times allegedly.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully we can continue to bring that for you every week, and you'll continue to enjoy it and join us. So thanks again. We'll catch you next week on Wrist Cheese Radio.
Thanks,
Later.
guys. Bye.